highlights Quartet. This 4 times 2. It might be a short one, but it's very interesting, and trust me, you will fall in love with this title for sure, for sure. So Quartet. First, let me start this. Quartet is a turn-based RPG that manages to both stay shockingly true to the classic and introduce new mechanics of its own. This JRPG style game from the creators of The Shadow of Adam is packed with the charm, and throughout it may feel slow in areas. It rewards those with the patience to stick it out and play through. Fans who have been eagerly awaiting the release of Quartet will not be disappointed, as this love letter to the genre is memorable and fun to play as the classic it was inspired by. As you might imagine by the game, Quartet is the game that plays around with a lot, uh, and that's the point, that it's very interesting because the fun play, and it was inspired by. So as you might imagine, the Quartet is the game that you play with the a number four, basically, right? Game begins with the contactless raid of the castle of some evil emperor who wants to play on cursing toward to continue his reign, with the four heroes joined together to stop it. This is very stereotypical JRPG ending, serves as a prologue to own story, which warns that something catastrophic is about to happen, the words magic. And the actual story begins a great deal of time later, in a world where the magic has long since vanished, to the point where mining believes stories of its existence to be nothing more than fairy tales. We learn this after playing throughout one of the four introductory stories to our main characters, which can be played in any order and introduce us to different ways which magic has turned to the world. This is the first one I choose to play through, featured one of the protagonists, Alex, snuggling to take care of his sick mother and finding a magical deck of cards during a shady robbery. So these four character stories, once completed, lead into the game's actual story, where you now have a party of 8 fights to stop a war and save the world. Throughout, I find a lot of time spent on these early stories to feel slow, dragging on big longer that I would like in. It's probably the best way to developers could have introduced the game's bigger concept of adventuring with a party of 8. Its fairness to the title. The game really opens up and becomes more and more interesting once you reach this point, with the greater story becoming more gripping once all over the introduction build is done. Mechanically, Quarter is a fairly straightforward turn-based JRPG. Different characters have different attributes and skills, and elemental abilities can be used to exploit specific enemy weakness. To make room for the game cost of EVU heroes, you have ability to switch your heroes, and in way on the battle, with the 4 being represented on the actual battlefield at once, and the 4 it reverses, getting its increase to their ability point restoration. The game essentially plays like it's 97 Final Fantasy VII if you could swap Cloud without Vincent and make any mid-battle to make the specific abilities. Outside of the swapping mechanics, there isn't a whole lot differently or incredibly originally in the combat system of the Quartet. Well, it's actually a fan of turn-based combat. The mechanics is game aren't going to magically change that. Something that's sure to have mixed reception is how the game handles bosses, who done the health bars, but rather as a known amount of wealth. When they lower health, they show it with an injured spirit, but beyond that, there is really no way to tell how much health a boss has. It can give fights a sort of increased tension, and it began to throw and grow up on me. But it was definitely a slight roadblock in my strategic planning that actually didn't appreciate on much. As far as the game writing and the story go, I think Quartet is an exceptional written RPG that manages to be escapedly interesting in its second half, albeit one of the is rather slow in its introduction. The parts of the game felt the worst to play. For me, were definitely the character introduction whenever I was stuck in a dialogue selling some soon to expire milk investigating train robberies. While these moments feel slower, they don't or detect from the experience, and if you hold out throughout them, you find yourself really appreciating story once all the characters come together. The game Pixel is art is gorgeous, but also almost hilariously enemy-sided, with your foes having full-body renders while your party is portrayed only as little pixel chibis, which is really reminiscent of the classics of the genre. I did myself wishing we could see more of our protagonists. Regardless, the art is incredible and the enemy design is especially interesting. Well, Quartet is an interesting turn-based RPG inspired by JRPGs classics, and as nostalgic as it can feel, it can also show its age. Particularly, I found that the game didn't work very well when it's all tabbing. Tabbing out back is occasionally break WSD moment. Controls have lost of focus, pop-up gets strong, and sometimes it gets stuck because of a get strong. While intrusive, their issues were fixed by just tapping back out in a few more times until the issue went away. For all the game about four Quartet picks, way more than four reasons to play it. It's just story builds into something surprisingly big. The combat has just enough twist to stay fun, and the characters feel alive in always that manner. The first hours may test your patience, but stick it to you and find yourself hooked. So I definitely recommend you to play the Quartet. Thank you.